how has, have you been, in regards to, your producing, your directing, creating these programs? Can you fill us in on a little bit of thought as to why you took a project such as, murders or childhood murders?
Well, Mario, first I'd like to thank you.
No problem, bro.
For the assistance that you have provided that made a lot of what I'm doing in this medium possible, because my medium prior to this was radio.
Right.
And being able to move over into the visual. I don't think I'm very photogenic, and I don't like to take pictures. And here I find myself in front of a camera, so go figure.
What would you classify yourself as? If you had to make a title for yourself in the industry?
Well, I don't know about the industry, but I've been a troublemaker. Okay.
Yeah.
And I've done that job very well for 50 years.
Nice.
And it's something that we need to have trouble. We need to have troublemakers, because there's a lot of things that need to be stirred up. And
what kind of trouble are you insinuating?
Well, the trouble is white domination, white supremacy. Okay, or white subjugation.
Why do you have a problem with white supremacy?
Well, I have a problem with white supremacy because white supremacy is what caused hundreds of millions of our people to be murdered.
Right.
And
so are you a firm believer in black supremacy as opposed to white supremacy?
No, I'm not in favor of any type of supremacy that subjugates other people.
Right.
I believe that people should be allowed to have their own communities and their own societies and their own civilizations without being exploited by another. See, that's where the problem comes in.
Right.
The problem comes in when it doesn't really make any difference that much as to what the color of the people are.
Right.
It's a power relationship.
Power relationship.
And if the people in power happen to be all black, it is very possible and very likely that they could mistreat people that are different than they are, because that's just kind of what human nature does. What
kind of solution can you apply to that problem, if that's an issue?
Well, it is an issue, and I think the problem was at one time handled because there was no scarcity. You see, the problem is when human beings think there's not enough.
Right.
Okay, and when human beings think that there's not enough, then they go into survival mode, and then they start looking at each other, even if everybody looks the same. If you're into survival mode, you look at the other person looks just like you differently.
Right.
But if you go into,
I understand completely.
You understand that. So if
you're talking about like on the cartoon with Daffy Duck and or Daffy Duck and whoever else, when they look over and it got turned into a chicken dinner, and he's sitting there hungry, he started visualizing, and he turned into a plate with a chicken on it, smoking and stuff. Yeah. So you're saying we do that to each other. We look at each other and they turn into a plate.
If we're hungry, if we're hungry,
right,
or if we think that there's not enough,
right,
okay, then we begin to think about what I can do to make sure that there will be enough.
Right.
Okay?
Okay.
And in that thought process, you might conclude that if there's fewer of you,
right,
then there'll be more for me and my kind.
Right. So what about that old parable that says that teach a man how to fish, or something. Don't give a man fish, but teach him how to fish. How does that tie into these people that you're assuming that are looking at each other and wanting to eat them up personally?
Well, you see, first of all, you
psychologically, mentally, financially, or whatever.
First of all, you have to understand that African people did not have a scarcity mentality.
Right. Okay.
There was abundance of land.
Right.
There was fertile land.
Right.
There was abundance of water.
Right. And there lions.
Everything.
Tigers.
There was everything. No lions and tigers. They were over there. Okay. But in terms of what the society needed, in terms of what the community needed, in terms of what people needed, there was an abundance of that.
Right.
So that was one of the reasons why most African societies welcomed the strangers. They
Right.
were very welcoming of strangers because there was plenty.
Right.
Okay, and the other thing is that it was very difficult for them to imagine the private ownership
Right.
of anything, because in African society, everything was communal. It was
Right.
about us. It was about we.
So how do you compare that to today's society? You know, Houston, Third Ward, Sunnyside, you know, North Side, 4-4 Gulf Bank, all the way out there to the West Side, East Side. How do you confine that to a Houston setting, or New York, or in Atlanta, or Los Angeles? How would you transcribe that same analogy into the societies of somebody watching this on television when they're going outside and they're getting hungry? How do they recognize, oh, I'm about to hurt somebody, or I'm about to steal, or I'm about to lie? How do we help the community in explaining to them in what to do if something is something is wrong in their life, to where they would even want to rule another kind of person or whoever it be?
Well, that's a big question, and you covered a lot of area. But I'll try.
The whole United States.
No, you're
got
doing
Mexico.
No,
there.
you're doing more than that.
Right.
You're covering the whole gamut of human nature. You're covering how people behave under stress, how people behave.
Right. Psychology.
Yeah, we're talking about human behavior. We're talking about all kinds of things.
Right.
And we're also talking about conditioning. And we're
Right.
talking about Pavlov's dog. We're talking
Right.
about how mice behave
Right.
when they're in a very tight space, as opposed to mice that,
Yeah.
have a lot of space.
Right.
Okay? And how it is that people who look like us happen to find themselves in a little bit of space.
Right.
Okay? And what I mean by that, it's
Okay.
like in most poor people's environment,
Right.
they have one bathroom.
Right.
There may be 7 people in that house or 10 people in that
In this
house.
communal place.
And they have one bathroom.
What is a communal place? A homeless shelter?
The what?
Are you referring to a communal as a homeless
No,
shelter?
no. I'm talking about people's homes and apartments.
Right.
People's homes and apartments.
What part of Houston is these?
I wouldn't care. I mean, if you're poor,
Right.
and if you have limited resources, I know you only have one bathroom in whatever environment you're in.
Right.
Okay?
Just by the way they act.
No, not by the way they act, but by the architecture. You see, there's so
Okay.
much
Right.
that we find ourselves being influenced by that we're not even aware of.
Right.
And architecture is one of the things that we're affected by that we're not even aware of. And that
Okay.
is how much room.
How do you change the architecture?
Well, you see, the architecture is being defined by somebody else,
Right.
your landlord, but is mainly being defined by those forces and those influences that determine how much income you will have and how much income you have learned to generate.
Right.
Okay?
Okay.
But again, and I'd like to make sure that the audience understands this at this point, is that architecture determines a lot about human behavior. If years ago, let's say 75 years ago, we didn't have air conditioning and we didn't have even indoor toilets, okay? But what we had was space. We had great big old houses where the whole family, could live in that house.
Right.
And it was on acres of land.
Right.
So people had the space, they had the room, okay? And oftentimes when someone got old enough and started their own family, the community got together, the family got together and built them a house, built the newly married couple a house on some of the land that was already in the family, okay?
Right.
So we have been a people, even as a consequence of enslavement, that accumulated land and lived in a way that we were civilized. That we were civilized and we saw each other in non-competitive, non-aggressive ways. Now, when forces were put in place that drove us off of the land and drove us out of the county or out of the state even, and we found ourselves in the north, and we found ourselves in industrial regions of the country. One of the things that was a major adjustment for our people coming up from the south were apartments.
Right.
These little cubby holes, man, and having 15,000 people in 4 blocks. And you got 15,000 people stacked on top of each other.
Sound like New York.
No, not just New York, but just urban centers, industrialized centers. That changed the behavior. That changed the way human beings thought of themselves and how human beings behaved, okay? So here again, as I say, we need to understand the importance of architecture, and also that there's a direct correlation between longevity, healthfulness, and territoriality. In other words, when you've got 7 people in a 600 square foot space or less, they're breathing each other's air. We're exhaling and we're breathing in other people's air. So the possibility of getting sick in an environment where you're stacked in on top of each other is very high, And then when you factor in poor nutrition, because we didn't have a truck garden out back, and we weren't eating fresh vegetables and freshly killed meat, et cetera, and we were dependent upon meat that perhaps was even no good to eat, but that was what was at the local grocery store or what was provided to us. So we've had a lot of pressure placed on us physically, psychologically, biologically, emotionally, and spiritually. We are under attack, and we've been under attack based on the parameters that are set for us by somebody else.
One question: what is your visualization of the land of milk and honey? That way society can be to where that will make you happy. What would you want to see? Like Martin Luther King gave a speech of, black and white kids holding hands walking down the street.
Well, yes, but he had a dream. You see, when you're dreaming, reality, is different than dreams.
So you're saying Martin Luther King was full of garbage?
No, I'm saying that as Martin Luther King grew and learned, he began to see things differently. And in the last days of his life, he was not the same man talking about, I have a dream.
Right.
He understood that it was necessary to come up with a plan.
You were alive during Martin Luther King era?
I met the man. I was in the room with the man.
Nice. So what did Martin Luther King do wrong? If Martin Luther King did something wrong, what did he do wrong? And what did he pay his life for?
What Martin Luther King did wrong, if that's to use that language and that terminology, is that he trusted white people.
Dang.
And primarily Jews.
Yeah.
He trusted Jews who were very, very much an integral part of developing the strategy.
What do you mean integral part?
That means that they were oftentimes part of the planning.
Right.
And part of the strategy, and very much a part of where the money came from.
Right. So Martin Luther King turned into a turkey dinner?
Yeah, he turned into, yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. But he didn't, but when he realized that, and he no longer wanted to be that dinner, that's when
They killed him.
but before they killed him, they withdrew the financial support. I mean, it was like night and day.
Like Malcolm X too?
1 minute, no. Malcolm X had a similar problem, but that needs to be addressed separately because
Yes,
they both had misunderstandings
Right.
of reality. Okay?
They were misunderstanding reality.
Misunderstandings of reality. Okay? And when Dr. King finally got it, he got it as a result of his taking the movement north,
Right.
and he realized that there was as much hatred of black people in Peoria, Illinois,
Right.
as there was in Birmingham, Alabama.
So he should have made a left at Albuquerque, is what you're
Okay?
saying.
Well, not necessarily made a left at Albuquerque, but he did not comprehend until very late in his life the overall illness
Right.
of America. America has a disease. America has a sickness, and it's called whiteness. They have
Whiteness.
a sickness.
Okay. Have white people done anything good for society?
Have white people done anything good for society?
Yeah. You're saying some pretty strong words, Mr. Troublemaker.
Well, it's not about strong words. It's about trying to understand what we see
Right.
and why we continue to see from generation after generation after generation after generation
Right.
the same problems. I mean,
Okay.
we're either the dumbest people in the world,
Right.
or there's something that constantly has been holding us
Right.
at the bottom of the economic ladder, the bottom of
Right.
the social ladder, the bottom of all the ladders.
You don't think that blacks have done it to ourselves?
No, we have been trained.
Right.
We have been trained
Right.
to hate ourselves.
Okay.
We've been trained.
Where's the training of an example of training a black person to hate themselves? How would you do that?
Well, you train a black person to hate themselves by putting images in the magazines and images in church and images in school and in textbooks of white people.
Okay. So there should be history books with equal race division, Spanish, black, white, whatever other races are out there.
Yes, but you see, having images in school books does not replace the fact that the child knows that her father doesn't have any money.
Okay.
You see, and when she needs something,
Right.
he can't do it,
Right.
or he's not even there,
Right.
or she sees.
Who calls the father not to be there though? You saying a white person made her that child's father or mother not be there?
Yes, that is systematic. That's systematic, and I'm
You
very.
mean it's systematic, meaning who, HPD or?
No, I'm saying that the system. I grew up.
Right.
I grew up during the time. I'm 73.
Yes, sir.
So I grew up at a time when there were two parents in the home.
Two parents.
Two parents in the home.
Okay.
And I saw how the government
Right.
systematically broke up the family and made it.
How did they systematically break them up?
They systematically broke them up through the welfare system.
The welfare system.
The quote welfare system.
Okay.
Okay,
And
that Jews
All right.
controlled.
How did the welfare system break up the household?
It broke up the household because the welfare system, in tandem with the systematic exclusion
Right.
of the male from being able to get a job.
Right.
So therefore, if the house did not have a breadwinner,
Right.
and if the family could not support itself,
Right.
the family had to turn to welfare.
Yeah, start looking at each other like turkey dinners.
They had to let's face it. Black people were taught to see each other as the problem.
Okay.
Okay, and unfortunately, black women were taught that her man was the problem.
Right.
Because he wouldn't do what it took to keep a job.
Right.
He wouldn't do what it took to get a job.
Right.
And then when he got a job, he didn't make enough money.
Right.
And then he had the nerve to gamble the money away.
Right. Drink it.
Drink the money away.
Right.
Use drugs,
Right.
etc.
So what do you want the society that's coming up right now? What do you want them to know? To not use welfare, get a job, keep it, don't drink.
No, I want young people, and I want us as a people to understand that white domination, white subjugation is as detrimental to our health today as it has been for the past 400 years.
Okay. So racism is still a strong force out there. It's still here, like it was back when.
Racism is alive and well in the world.
Okay.
And in America, on a scale from 1 to 10, it's an 11.
It's gotten worse.
It's gotten worse, and it's getting worse.
So do you have any remedies to fix this, or how do we start to repair this, or how do we build for a stronger tomorrow? Do you have any recommendations or books to read or something that this? I'm afraid of making the people watching this sad. That's what I'm afraid of.
Well, I don't care about them being sad.
You want somebody to sit at the
I don't care about being sad. I care that we understand the danger that we're in. But if we continue to think that we need to deal with this positivity business, you know, you got to be positive. Well, that's fine. You know, when they're getting ready to lynch you, you can think all positive if you want. You know, or when you're getting ready to find yourself homeless, okay, you can be positive and you can use positivity if you want. But I think one of the things that we have to do is understand the importance of being realistic, and being able to acknowledge what the problem is, because once we understand what the problem is, we're intelligent enough to come up with a solution.
Okay.
But if we're unwilling to identify what the problem is, we can't possibly come up with an answer.
We need to help them more than that.
So what I'm proposing, and what I have proposed, is that we begin to understand the importance of looking to each other. To look to each other.
Look to each other, and what are we doing while we're looking at each other?
When we're looking at each other, I was talking to a young brother a little while ago, and he was talking, well, yesterday in fact, and he was saying that, well, we don't have the money, we don't have resources. And I said, yes, we do have resources. And he was saying, well, rich people have, they have more resources and they have more, you know, they have more money. I said, yeah, they have more money, but they don't have more numbers.
More numbers as in?
More numbers. In other words, there's more poor people than there are rich people. Okay?
So what are...
And if the poor people, understood the importance of working together, okay, they don't have to work together necessarily against rich people. And we don't need to necessarily work together against white people. What we need to do is work together to make our situation better for each other. Okay,
like a plan.
And understand that we are all in this boat together. Okay, and what I mean by together, all black people, all non-white people are in a boat together.
Okay.
And we also have to understand that wherever black people are, they occupy the lowest economic, socioeconomic, and longevity rung. We're on the bottom. And that can't be accidental.
Okay.
And we need to learn how to work together to reverse that. To revert, we have a right. We have a right to live our lives fully.
Okay. So what do you want the community to know? You diagnosed it. You diagnosed it to the 10th power. You know, I don't want nobody depressed out there. What can they do when they wake up tomorrow on Saturday, or if it's Monday, Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday, any day of the week that this show airs? What do you want them to do when they wake up after watching this?
I started to say stop BSing, but
stop bullcrapping.
Stop playing games.
Okay.
Stop playing games.
Stop playing games.
Stop playing games, because the games that we're playing and the games that we've been encouraged to play is games that we lose. We play the bling bling game. We lose that game. We play the hair game. We lose that game. Okay? We play I don't care about nobody else but me game. We lose that game. We play the we play get a good education and get a good job game. We play all these games that have not worked for us. We play the romance game. I mean, think about it. We have been immersed in a world of erotic stimulation. Where from infancy, we are constantly driven into our emotional nature. And it's done through music. It's done through through all the senses. We are driven into erotic and emotional spheres of our being. Okay.
Nice.
And that has not worked for us. If singing love songs, oh, baby, and getting over and crying about sex and crying about failed relationships and all of if those were going to deliver us, we'd be the kings of the world again. Okay, because we've been immersed in those messages.
So this is what you want. You want us to be the kings of the world.
No, I want us to be. I want us to regain our self-respect. And I want us to resecure our future for ourselves and our children and our progeny.
Nice. All right. That sounds very, 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 very awesome. Now, I've seen another show with you concerned about O.J. Simpson. Why do you go around helping? I mean, the Atlanta child murders, I can understand. You know, that was totally wrong. Somebody died, somebody got framed, and that was like totally out there. But O.J. Simpson, bro, you seem to have a feeling on that whole O.J. situation. How does this O.J. situation affect you?
Well, when we understand that there is a doctrine of black male inferiority.
And O.J. Simpson being an example here.
And when we have men who contradict that mantra of black male inferiority and become successful, as O.J. Simpson had become successful. O.J. Simpson defied the stereotype. He defied the limitations that were expectant and imposed on black males. He defied the dumb jock, jock image. The brute. And O.J. became the prince of Southern California. O.J. became one of the most influential men in the country. And he also opened up extraordinary opportunities for black athletes, black performers, etc., males. by his performance. People love the juice.
Okay.
People love to look at OJ on TV.
Yeah.
And they love to see him running through airports.
Yeah.
They loved it.
Running through airports like where planes fly?
Yeah, you see, you're too young to know about one of the most famous commercials that that OJ was associated with.
Right.
OJ would run through this commercial had OJ running through airports and jumping over luggage.
Yeah.
Sprinting and doing all kind of physical stuff,
Yeah.
and people love to watch the juice, man.
Yeah.
Okay?
Nice.
So here, now, the thing that can best help us understand what happened to OJ, you have to understand what happened to Motown.
Okay.
What happened to Motown?
OJ and Motown.
Yeah, right.
Okay, Motown is Sam Cooke and
He was never on. Sam Cooke was never on Motown. But we have to look at the black entertainers,
right,
that were part of the doo-wop
okay,
era.
right,
Okay.
Okay.
Those pretty dudes, man.
Oh, You're talking about like Chico DeBarge and them boys.
Before that.
Okay.
Before
Prince?
that. No, before Prince.
Before
we're
Prince.
talking about, yes, we're talking about the Temptations.
The Temptations.
Yeah, we're talking about oh my goodness, the Spaniels. We're talking about the names you don't, names you don't know. Okay,
Yeah.
but we're talking
Temptations
about.
was a good movie.
We're talking about the Drifters.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Okay.
I kind of heard something about the Drifters.
Okay.
So O.J. Simpson and the Drifters were doing a show at Motown.
No.
And then he was at the airport jumping over luggage.
We're talking about the
completely now.
image. We're talking about the image of black males.
Okay.
And the image of black males were growing
Right.
in acceptance and positivity,
Okay.
through music.
Positivity. So you have a problem with today's music versus the music.
No. You're missing the point I'm trying to make,
Okay.
or I'm not doing a very good job of it. So let's try to do this again. Let me be more specific.
Yes, sir.
White women were falling in love with
Yeah.
black performers.
Okay. Oh, so that's where you're coming from.
Yes.
So this is how I get to OJ and
Yes.
and OJ's girl. Okay.
Okay. White women
Right.
were fantasizing,
Right.
and not just fantasizing.
Okay.
They were finding sexually attractive
Right.
and desirable
Right.
these gorgeous men with their gorgeous
Oh man.
their gorgeous suits, man. These
Yeah.
guys were decked out.
Yeah.
Their choreography, man.
Yeah.
They were, they were the bomb, man.
Man, I seen a picture of you. You was younger.
Okay.
Man, you was a smoker.
Okay, so all right, but
Man, you was a big dude.
they were sex symbols. They
Right.
became sex symbols.
And this is why you were a sex symbol.
Okay, well, I don't know about all of that,
Man,
but
I saw you. I saw that picture of you at
yeah,
your
but wait a
house.
minute, wait a minute.
You had a big dude wearing a suit, sitting
Wait.
there like this.
I'm trying to make a point here.
Yes, sir.
I'm trying to make a point that black males and black music
Okay.
was the focal point of white social life.
Right. And this is what it was a downfall of OJ.
No, this was the downfall of Motown.
Oh.
This was the downfall of the image
So
of
when was
black men,
Yeah.
of black men, to where now the image of black men, you got grills in their mouth, they got tattoos all over them.
So-
they're sliding cards through the butts of women.
Fine, hot girls.
Yeah, fine, hot girls.
You're talking about Nelly.
No, I'm talking.
Nelly did that.
I'm talking about the degradation, degradation of the image
Right.
of black people
Right.
in the media. And you see, the thing that people don't understand is that those images were all over the world.
Right.
And I happened to have been in Europe
Yeah.
when I was 13 years old.
Right.
And people were singing
Yeah.
the songs of black men
Right.
in Europe.
Nice.
They were dancing
Yeah.
They were dancing.
Yeah.
They couldn't even speak English, and they were dancing
Okay.
to the music that we were producing.
So where does OJ come into this situation?
OJ was doing the same thing, man. OJ was a sex symbol, man.
Yeah. Okay.
Jim Brown was a sex symbol.
Well, the dialogues that you put out, bro, that I'm referring to is OJ in jail in Las Vegas. So you're
Well,
saying that
you have to
this is the
understand, he was
beginning.
brought down. He was deliberately assaulted. He was deliberately framed. He was deliberately
out of jealousy.
not just jealousy, but you have to understand, there's a doctrine of black male inferiority.
Okay. And we're trying to fix this.
We
gotta fix this.
No, they do.
Nobody wants to be inferior.
White people do what they do
Right.
to maintain that image, whether it's real or not.
Oh, I don't know what to say. I'm lost.
Well, let me put it another way. Whether or not black people are dope heads, the image of black people that is presented by the media to the world is that black people are the only ones smoking dope. Black people are the only one using dope.
Like Lamar Odom smoking crack.
Okay, well, I don't know who that person is.
Odom that played for the Lakers that got cut.
I don't know anything about that because I don't follow nonsense. I don't follow nonsense. But my point is, white people smoke more dope and use more dope and are bigger drug dealers,
right,
and bigger, pushers and everything else. But who gets all the bad publicity? We're less than 13% of the population,
right,
and the image is presented to the world that we're 90% of the lawlessness in America. That's
90% of the lawlessness.
That's mathematically impossible.
Okay.
And that is maintained. And like here we had a man who went through a trial,
right,
and was acquitted.
OJ.
Right. But the media, the Jewish controlled media,
right,
maintained his guilt.
Okay.
Maintained that he was guilty and his money and the dream team got him off.
Isn't that what happened?
No.
Okay. What happened?
OJ was a 56-year-old man.
Right.
A broke-up football player.
Okay.
He could not.
A former sex symbol.
Yes, but he could not have physically attacked two young, scared people.
Right.
And nobody hear nothing.
Right.
I mean, that's not. And then the person who did the killing,
right,
the authorities ignore.
Okay.
So one of the things that I'm very much involved in is setting the record straight.
Okay.
To set the record straight.